haven't made any videos about E3 at all so far. Although I've kind of wanted to, but I haven't really had the main drive to want to do it. I just felt like really watching some E3 conferences, but my god, did Sony destroy everyone so far. So I want to make a video on just talking about Sony's press conference. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I just really want to talk about this because this was so good, and I really just want to talk about it. So at Sony's press conference, right at the front of the stage, they had a small orchestra set up, and they were playing the God of War theme. Well, it's some music from God of War, and it felt really good to listen to. And it wasn't only then that they were playing music, it was when people were walking on and off stage as well. And one of the guys made a quip that it was kind of an awesome feel that they were doing that while he was walking on and off stage, and people made a few laughs about it. I found it pretty funny. But Sony went straight in with a God of War trailer, and the trailer looked really good. So just a quick rundown. The trailer started off with Kratos' child, I think it's his son. He was playing with dolls and things, and then Kratos told him to get his mum's dagger, and then he gave him a bow and some arrows, and then they went hunting for food. Pretty cool. It was give them a thing, something to do, I guess. But the very first thing I noticed about this new God of War game is that the gameplay is completely different. From the trailer that we've seen, Kratos has completely lost pretty much every single weapon he's had through God of War. The camera angle is completely changed to a behind the character perspective instead of a set camera angle that changes on its own, and the gameplay looks really good. It does kind of remind me of the older God of War games, but it still is really new and sort of fresh. As the gameplay went on, they showed that you could discover new creatures or animals, or you could discover completely new areas. It does still kind of seem like you're following a linear path similar to older God of War games, but it does feel a lot more open than the older games. The cool thing about this trailer that I thought was pretty neat was the whole trailer is following Kratos and his son, and he's teaching him how to hunt. It's a pretty nice little thing because it gives a whole new layer to the character of Kratos, which we didn't have before, because before it was just a psychopath that wanted to kill everything, but now we have this sort of fatherly figure instead of this madman that wants to destroy everything, which I'm all for. If it gives Kratos a completely new perspective, and it just builds on the character more than we had already. Seeing Kratos and his son interacting the way that they did was really nice to see, and really refreshing. But enough of the bond between the two characters. The fighting does seem very similar to God of War. There was one point where Kratos threw his axe at something at the wall, and it got stuck on there, and then he just went into a fist fight with something and completely destroyed its head. And afterwards, he called for the axe, and then it just swung back and hit him in the hand, and he caught it, and that's pretty cool. So you can just throw your weapons, and then you can catch him again. That's awesome. So it does still seem like he's retained some of his powers that he's had when he was the God of War. But not only that, it does seem like he's trying to pass on his powers to his son through the way he was using the bow and things, and it did seem like he was trying to teach him how to become him, as if there's something that's going to happen to Kratos and he wants to pass on something like that. But the quick time events are still in the game, which is pretty cool. It's the game mechanics that God of War is known for, and they kept it, so that's pretty neat. The best thing by far at the end of the trailer was the fact that he found the deer, and he had to kill it. Well, Kratos' son had to kill the deer, and it was this really touching moment where he didn't want to kill the deer. He shot it with a bow. He was fine with doing that because you had to take control of it and kill him yourself. But there's this really touching moment where he didn't want to kill this deer, and Kratos held his hands and then helped him plunge the dagger in, and I thought it was a really touching moment. I'm sorry, but the gameplay is very similar to older God of War, apart from what I've said about the camera perspective and the fact that you lost some of the weapons from the older games. But it's this whole new layer to God of War that's very story driven that I really like. Some people might not like this, but I'm personally really down for getting a whole new perspective on the character of Kratos and learning more about how he works as a person. Before I go any further, I want to mention that between every single game there was no breaks at all. Apart from introducing a new game, they didn't really say anything about what the game was about and how the gameplay mechanics really worked or anything like that. They just went from trailer to trailer to trailer to trailer, and it was pretty neat. I liked how they had so much to offer And this is the strongest conference so far. There are so many games in this. And it was really nice that they were able to just jump from game to game to game, because with the amount of games they had, there wasn't really much room for them to be able to talk about the games. So I can really understand that sort of thing. But it would have been nice for them to talk about something about some of the games instead of just jumping straight to the next game. Just a little information about one of the games or some of the games or something like that would have helped understand how the game worked a bit better. So the next game was Days Gone, and it was just a trailer, pretty much. There wasn't much gameplay to be shown apart from right at the end of the conference where they had I think it was like a 10-minute gameplay of them playing it or something like that. But I kind of just left at that point, but apparently it's something to do with another zombie game or something. Yeah, cool, another zombie game, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really interested in getting another zombie game, because how many times can you repeat the same character development and things? It's really the same thing with zombie games. I could be wrong about Days Gone. There could be this whole new perspective on this sort of thing, but for me, zombie games just have the same feel and the same character development and the same pretty much everything. Everything just feels the same. The next thing completely caught me off guard, and I absolutely loved it because we actually have a release date for this now. The Last Guardian was absolutely amazing. They showed completely new gameplay. The game just looked really, really good. It's really nice that we actually have solid evidence that this is going to be coming out now. We have a release date for October. I'm really hyped about this because I absolutely love Team Eco. They didn't really need to show much gameplay or talk about the game because the game's been in development for so long. We didn't really need to know much about the game, but they did show quite a bit of gameplay in a trailer that was scissor cut together. And yeah, I'm just really, really excited about this game, like really excited. The next game was Horizon Zero Dawn, and they talked about this last year, and one of the things I noticed was the character was very, very talkative. They showed more gameplay, which is really neat. They showed the I think it was the main area you start in, and then she just wandered off and was like taking down robot animal things. One of the really cool things I noticed was you can override one of the animals. It's like a boar sort of thing. And you could take control of it, which I thought was really awesome, because I saw the character run in, and the world is completely open. You can go anywhere you want, and I was thinking that the area seemed a bit too big to just be able to walk from place to place. And luckily enough, there was a point where she did actually take control of one of the animals, and she was able to just wander around on the thing and get places a lot quicker, which I thought was pretty cool. They demoed a lot more of the weapons that you can use. There's elemental weapons that you can use, which was pretty cool. You can build traps, which I thought was pretty awesome. Towards the end of the trailer, there was a new enemy sort of thing, I guess, and it was a corrupted enemy. Oh, before this, she was traveling to this place, and there were all these things just wandering around, like drinking at water holes or just wandering. There was these huge things just strolling around. Made the world feel a lot more believable, I guess, where everything's doing its own thing and everything is just really put together, and it just feels like a real world. But anyway, the corrupt thing, I guess it gives a reason for them to really be attacking the player and to be a lot stronger than the other enemies, I guess. She was attacked by other enemies before, but this enemy seemed a lot more stronger than the other enemies. And it might be because it was a corrupt enemy. No idea. But it did seem pretty cool that there's something to be able to corrupt the things that are already there. I don't really know what to call them. Are they animals or robots or ranimals? But there wasn't much in the trailer that they didn't show off last year, so that was pretty neat. Detroit Become Human was the next game, and the whole game is pretty neat. It's like an inspector sort of thing, similar to games like L.A. Noire, I guess, or games like that, where you have to collect evidence and then the trailer was basically you were trying to convince this other android, because you play as an android, by the way. You're convincing this other android that, because he had this little girl at gunpoint and he was going to jump off the building, and you had to convince him to not jump and save the little girl and things. And the neat thing I saw about this trailer was there's a lot, and I mean a lot of ways that you can tackle this. You can collect no evidence, and that gives you the worst possible thing to do because of course, it just jumps anyway. You could just run for the little girl and grab her and pull her to one side and then push the guy off. You can go off with the guy. You can shoot the guy and then grab the girl and pull her away. Or there's a lot of different ways that you can do sort of these things, which I thought was a really cool way of approaching these sort of things. It gives a whole new perspective on how to tackle things instead of there being a good way to end things and a bad way to end things. There's a whole multitude of ways that you can do things, which I thought was really awesome. The game looks really good, but I don't think I will play it because I'm not sure if I'd really like it, but the game does look really, really good. The next was Resident Evil 7, and wow, this trailer caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it to be Resident Evil, I'll tell you that. So at this point, they were basically pushing the idea of PlayStation VR, and this was the first game that they showed. The game shows you walking around a house and looking at items and things and cockroaches and spooky things. But the main drive of this was that the whole game is going to be able to be played in first person, which is awesome. I really like that. It gives a whole new way of Resident Evil to create a whole new story and things. From what I saw, these are completely new characters. They're not characters from any other Resident Evil, and I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like they come from any other Resident Evil game. Awesome, sure. I'll buy it. It gives a whole new character roster to Resident Evil, sure. The weird thing about this is that the game isn't labelled as another Resident Evil game, it's labelled as a part of the main series. It's called Resident Evil 7, but the gameplay is drastically different from the other Resident Evil games. As an example, like I said, you play in first person instead of in third person. And from what I saw, there is no weapons in the trailer that they showed, and they said that people could play it and whatever after the conference, and people were really happy about that. Cool. Woo. But it doesn't look like anything like a Resident Evil game, and I would be up for that. It does seem like they should have called it something other than Resident Evil 7, unless it does kind of change into something to do with Resident Evil. I don't really know, but it doesn't seem like anything to do with Resident Evil at all. The next game was Farpoint. I didn't know much about this, and I don't think they really said much about it at all, to be honest. Just by going watching the trailer and not knowing anything about this game, you end up on a foreign planet, and I have no idea what planet it is. The game can be played in first person, because again, this is the part of the conference where they're talking about PlayStation VR, and you can wander around. The gun, I don't know, but it seems like the gun can be used with the gyro sensor and the DualShock 4. I don't know, but it does seem like that. It would have been nice to have known a bit more about the game, but I don't really know if they've actually spoken about it before, because this is the first time I've heard about it, but I have no idea. So it seems like a typical sci-fi action game. You wander around and then the spooky things happen, like robots or something in the sky, and you shoot them and things. It seems like a very typical first-person action game. But I didn't know. I watched the trailer, and I brought nothing away from it, really. It did seem pretty cool. The gameplay looked pretty cool, but it didn't seem like anything we hadn't seen before, so I don't know. This is what I'm really going to bring away from that trailer. The next was Battlefront VR X-Wing mission, which really took me off guard again. Really did. I wasn't expecting this at all. And the whole VR perspective about this is that you're in the cockpit of the X-Wings, which I thought was amazing. You could actually be part of the X-Wing squad. That's amazing. Games have attempted to be inside the cockpit of X-Wings and things like that before, but I think with this, it can bring a whole new way of looking at it. I'm really excited for this, because there's a lot of detail in the cockpit as well. They had like little dials and things to look at, and it looked really, really cool. And you could like look around and things, and it was all with VR still. It just looked really, really cool. So I'm completely down for this. I really want to see this. But the trailer wasn't very long. It was basically just an announcement for the thing, but it wasn't a real gameplay trailer because it was all CG, I think. And the same for Batman Arkham VR. It had Mark Hamill talking about something to do with Batman hiding behind a mask and stuff. But the whole thing, apart from Mark Hamill talking, was pretty much just the camera panning around Batman's mask and different perspectives and things. But there wasn't anything showing gameplay at all. It was just Mark Hamill and Batman's mask and things, so there wasn't anything about that at all. I mean, it would have been nice to know at least where the Batman Arkham VR game sits, seeing as Batman Arkham Knight finished the series, so it would be nice to know where this sits. Know a bit more about the game, but all we really got was that trailer, so it would have been nice to have known more about it. Final Fantasy VR experience. They first started off by showing Final Fantasy 15 gameplay. They started off with a trailer for that, and then they went on to showing a bit more, and this didn't really look all that promising, to be totally honest. It looks really cheesy. the guy that you were playing as like turned to the camera and put his thumb up and things. It looked really dumb. The actual gameplay from what they showed of you using the VR and the controller, because I think it still uses a controller. From what they showed of that, it doesn't look like it works incredibly well. It looks very clunky. I don't know what caused it, but nothing moved smoothly. It looked like he was really having a problem with trying to shoot and hit the target. I don't know what it was, but something wasn't connecting. But sure, cooldown looks pretty neat. You get to experience Final Fantasy in VR. You get to teleport around and stuff. So sure, that looks pretty cool. The next was Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. And without knowing the trailer and knowing much about the game, it did look pretty good. Personally, I don't really care about Call of Duty whatsoever. Same for the Modern Warfare remaster. I don't care about that at all. But Infinite Warfare looked actually pretty good. It started off with the player in their space station, and they went into their own little fighter jet things, spaceship sort of thing, something like that. And they ended up grappling onto space debris and getting onto the enemy's space thingy. And from there, they went and blew up the window, and they crawled in and stuff and shut the shutters and whatever. And they carried on from there, and the gameplay did look pretty good. It did look like a typical space shooter sort of thing, but it didn't look bad. It didn't look terrible. And I'm kind of surprised by that. If you don't like Infinite Warfare, then sure, that's your opinion. But to me, the Infinite Warfare demo did look pretty promising, and I did kind of like the look of it. Because the main thing about it was I had no idea that it was a Call of Duty gameplay, but I did have some idea as to it was. But the game did look pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it did look pretty good, but I don't think I'm gonna play it. So after this was my absolute favorite part. The little orchestra at the front of the stage was playing the Crash Bash theme, which was awesome. And after this, the whole stage lit up with this little scene of Crash Bandicoot. There were like little tiki statues and things in the corners, and the guy was walking on stage, and this little Crash shadow and footprints in the sand was like with him, and it looked really, really good. And the audience just exploded. It was amazing. And then they announced that they were working with Activision to make a brand new, from the ground up, completely remastered Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3, which absolutely blew my mind. We had very, 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 very subtle hints that they were going to bring back Crash Bandicoot at some point. But one, the question was when, and two, the question was in what form. There were a good few rumors going around about Crash Bandicoot getting a remaster. There were some rumors going around about Crash Bandicoot getting a brand new game. There was that fan-made remastered cover thing for PS4 that was surfaced a while ago. But now we have complete solid evidence that Crash Bandicoot is going to get a remaster for the PlayStation 4, and I am completely stoked about this. I am so excited for this. I recently completed Crash Bandicoot on 100% first time recently, and I'm really excited to try this again. I'd be more than happy to do it again, because the Crash games are so good, and I wasn't expecting them to actually make a remaster, but now I guess it's sort of solidified the fact that they are, and that is really, really cool, and I'm so excited for this. But Sony spoke recently that they haven't got the rights to it. They're not going to make a new Crash game. It's up to Activision if they want to make a new Crash game or not. So there was a lot of doubts about this, but now it's solidified that it's happening, and I am so excited for this. But after that amazing upbringing was this really downfall. So after this was Skylanders Imaginators. And the way they segued into this, they had no gameplay at all with the Crash Bandicoot remaster, no cover art or anything for the new box or anything like that. They just said it was announced and it was actually going to happen, and I think it was announced for later this year. But I can't remember if they said anything about a release date or not. Oh, and I guess it kind of counts as a remake, not a remaster, because they're completely remaking the game, so I don't know. But the way they segued it into Skylander was they were saying that Activision, which they could have done a long time ago, was Activision are making a Crash Bandicoot Skylander, and then they had this trailer for Crash in Skylanders, and then they segued into this little thing where you can make your own Skylanders, which I thought was pretty neat, but I don't think I really care about at all. I kind of want the Crash Skylander if they make it, but apart from that, I don't really care about Skylanders pretty much. I would have preferred to have had a Crash Bandicoot trailer than to have a Skylanders trailer, to be totally honest. After Skylanders, they went on to Lego Star Wars. Cool. Lego Star Wars, this is another one we kind of known about this for a long time, but the whole thing about it was they were just saying there was 2 weeks left until it's released. So sure, cool, that's pretty neat. I don't really know what IGN has done on their website, but they've put Crash Bandicoot Remastered, Skylanders Imaginators, Lego Star Wars Crash Team Remastered, and Skylanders Imaginators. So is that Crash Team Racing? I think they just done goofed. After this was the second to last thing that they showed, and it was one of the most surprising things of the whole conference. So the guy came on stage, yeah, he was talking about a game and talking about game devs working with them, and then he said to be one of him and to welcome this person he's working with to the stage, and the orchestra started playing music, and I think it was from one of the MGS games. The curtain started to roll up, and Hideo Kojima started coming down the stairs, and the crowd went absolutely insane. It was really, really awesome. That Hideo Kojima can still have that welcoming is really, really nice to see, and I'm so freaking happy about Kojima being back. Cool thing about this was that the crowd was actually chanting Kojima, and it was just awesome. He was like waving to people and things, and it was just this really nice heartwarming moment where Kojima was brought back, and everyone was just super excited about it. I mean, who doesn't like Kojima? He's the best person. He's the best. But he was brought to the stage to announce a new game that he's working on, and it's called Death Stranding, which I don't really understand the name of. Death Stranding? Stranding. What does stranding mean? Dive or leave, a boat, sailor, or sea creature. Aground on shore. Okay, that kind of makes sense because there were a lot of dead whales on the beach. Sure. So the whole trailer was in real time and it looked really, really good. The trailer looked awesome. Really nice looking graphics, and it just looked really, really awesome. Like how much detail was in the scene. But the trailer was pretty neat. It was like panning across the beach, like handprints and blood or something coming out of the handprints, and there was a guy laying on the beach and a little babby thing laying next to him. And the guy picked up the baby and was like holding him in his arms, and then the camera panned up and it was Norman Reedus, and the crowd went wild again. So by the look of it, by the look of the trailer, the handprints on the guy, the blood on his hands and things, it does look like they're trying to go back and try something similar to Silent Hills with Norman Reedus and the whole imagery of the scene and things. It does look like they're trying to do something like that again. But I can't be 100% certain, and do not quote me on that because it's just a theory or something. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to see this, and it's really nice to see Kojima back. And the first thing he said when he came on stage was, "I'm back," and the crowd just exploded. It's just really awesome. So after this was one last thing, and they spoke about a new Spider-Man game released for the PS4 that's being made by Insomniac. Cool. It looks pretty cool. Looks like Spider-Man was like jumping through cafes and things and doing the things that Spider-Man does. But hopefully Insomniac can do something really awesome with a Spider-Man game. It does look like it's a lot more expansive than the older Spider-Man games. By the look of it, it doesn't look like it has anything to do with the Amazing Spider-Man or the original Spider-Man games. It's just called Spider-Man, and Spider-Man has this kind of new design about him. So hopefully we can see some new things about that soon. I'm kind of interested, but yeah, it does look pretty cool, and I'm kind of interested in the whole new Spider-Man game that they're releasing. And then after this, they went on to show some Days Gone gameplay, which I just left at that point. But the whole Sony press conference was really, really strong, and they had a lot of games to show and a lot of things to talk about, which I'm super happy for. That was one of the best press conferences of E3 so far. Some of the games that I'm really looking forward to that they showed is the new God of War game, The Last Guardian, possibly Resident Evil 7, Battlefront X-Wing Mission, the Crash Bandicoot remasters, and absolutely Death Stranding. I'm all super excited about this, and yeah, I just really want to see these games come out. So I don't know if I make any more videos like this. I might do, depending on if there's any other press conferences that really take me back and amaze me and things, but I don't think there would B, just really wanted to talk about Sony's press conference, so hopefully you guys are enjoying E3 as much as I am. I'm pretty excited about all this stuff, so if there's anything you're interested in, then leave a comment down below, and this will be pretty neat to see. If there's any other part of E3 that you loved so far, or if you just want to say anything about any games that you're looking forward to, then leave that in the comments below as well. As a whole, I don't think E3 is as strong as last year. E3 last year was the best E3 I think I've ever seen, and it's going to be really hard to be able to top that, but there's still some time for them to be able to show us something really amazing. But for me, this E3 isn't as good as last year, so thank you very much for watching. If you have any opinions about this year's E3, then leave a comment below, and I'll read them and reply and do the normal things I do. So, until next time, good day.